you're going to protect a town from flooding during a hurricane. The town you're going to protect is a pretend town called Beach Town. It's located along the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, Beach Town has great beaches. You could have guessed that from its name. It also has many historic buildings. Here's a map of the town. There's a famous hotel on the river that flows through town. There's an old city hall and many more historic buildings. Tourists come from all over to relax on the beaches and visit the town's old buildings. Unfortunately, Beach Town is in the path of hurricanes. When the last hurricane swept through Beach Town, it caused a lot of problems. The storm surge sent ocean water into many buildings near the shore, flooding them. Water from the heavy rains made the river overflow, flooding buildings nearby. It took months to clean out the water and rebuild all those historic buildings. Before another hurricane comes along, the town council wants to add some kind of flood protection to the town. Your job is to find a solution to Beach Town's flooding problem. If you're working as a team, each member of the team will be a different kind of engineer with a different solution to the flooding. If you're working alone, you'll think like all 4 engineers. I'll show you how to get started, step by step. If you're in a class, form a team of 4 and then choose a team leader. If you're working alone, you can just skip this step. When you're done, click the arrow. Get these supplies. You'll get more supplies later, but each team needs these things. If you're working alone, you'll still need all 4 engineering sheets. Each person on your team is going to be a different kind of engineer. Now, each engineer gets a different sheet. Take about 15 seconds to choose which engineer you'll be and get the right sheet. Be sure someone fills out every sheet or you won't be able to save Beach Town. So if you're working alone, you'll fill out all 4 sheets. Okay, I'll start the timer. To protect Beach Town from flooding, you need to know where the water that flooded each building came from. Take a look at your sheet. On the map, find flooding that came from the ocean's storm surge. Make a small red X by every historic building flooded by the storm surge. Remember, each historic building is marked with a star. If a historic building is only partly flooded by the storm surge, it still gets a red X. On your map, find flooding that came from the river. Make a small blue X by every historic building flooded by the river overflowing. Look for where river flooding overlapped with storm surge flooding. Historic buildings flooded by storm surge and the river should have both red and blue X's. Trade papers with a team member to check each other's work. Team leader, divide this sheet into 4 parts by cutting on the thick black lines. Then, engineers, take your part. Each engineer, read about your solution to flooding on your engineering sheet. Every engineer has a different way to solve the problem. Then, follow instructions 1 through 4 on your sheet. You'll use paper cutouts of your flood solution to show how you'll protect Beach Town. Now that you're an expert on what your type of engineer can do, get your final supplies. Your team needs each of these things.
We don't have the gummy strips, so we'll have to figure out what we're going to do with that when you get to that step. We'll see what it's used for and see if we can find something else to work with.
Now you're going to work together as a team to solve Beach Town's problem. Come up with a name for your engineering company and write it on question number 1 on this sheet. Don't spend too long on this. Just spend about 15 seconds to come up with your name. Okay, I'll start a timer. The town council had many discussions about how much money they could spend on flood protection. Finally, they decided on a budget of $1 million. Go ahead and write that in question 2 of your budget sheet. Put your maps on the table so everyone can see them, and make sure your flood solutions are placed where you want them. Now it's time to share your engineering expertise. Each engineer will report on what buildings their flood solutions can protect. Seawall engineer, tell the team about seawalls. If it's helpful, you can use the sentence starters below. If you're working alone, you can skip this step. Do number 3 on your worksheet. Write down the number of seawalls the seawall engineer has on their map. Then figure out the total cost and write the answer here. You'll be filling out the rest of the chart in the next few steps. Environmental engineer, tell the team about wetlands. If it's helpful, you can use the sentence starters below. Everyone write the number and cost of wetlands on question number 4 of your budget sheet. Levee engineer, tell the team about levees by using these sentence starters. Everyone, write the number and cost of levees in question number 5 of your budget sheet. Structural engineer, tell about putting buildings on stilts. Everyone, write the number and cost of buildings on stilts on question number 6 of your budget sheet. What would it cost if you decided to do everything each engineer recommended? To figure that out, add up the costs of all the solutions. Use the back of the paper for your math. Then write down the answer on question number 7. That's the total cost of doing everything. $1 million seems like a lot of money, but I'm guessing you spent more than that. Now you have to figure out how to lower costs to under $1 million. Discuss how your team can spend less money and still save all the historic buildings. Look at your maps. Do you really need all the solutions? Write your cost-saving ideas on question number 8 of your budget sheet. We have some hints for you on the next slide, but spend a minute or two discussing what you think before looking at our hints. Here are some hints for question number 8. Now that you have some ideas, try them out. Put the paper flood solutions on the master plan map. Move them around until you have a plan you like. You can use the back of the budget sheet to figure out the cost of your new plan. Can you save all the historic buildings for $1 million or less? Decide on your final plan. Use gummy dots to stick paper flood solutions in place on your map, like this. Then, team leader, fill in the final plan worksheet with the team's help.
I think we can just use tape to stick our stuff down. We'll just come find me for tape or ask me for tape and we can use it.
If you're working in a class, now's your chance to see what other teams have done. Your teacher will tell you how to display your plan. Then walk around to see all the other teams' plans. There's more than one solution to Beachtown's problem.
We will do this step when everybody is finished, and I feel as we could.
Did other teams have ideas you didn't think of? Here are some questions to discuss after looking at other plans.